So in this class, we will discuss about the working principle of a device called a gyroscope, which is basically used for measuring angular velocity. For measuring angular velocities, there is an instrument or device called a gyroscope is used. What is the gyroscope? You will study in the next semester in detail. So a spinning disc which is having a moment of inertia I and rotating with the angular velocity of omega s, and if this axis of spin itself is rotated, the axis itself is rotated like this. So it occupies a new position later at the angular velocity of omega p. Then a couple is needed to do that. So that couple is called a gyroscopic couple, is given by I omega s. Omega s, omega p. So this gyroscope, if you are able to, there is a disc with the moment of inertia I, and you spin it with the angular velocity omega s, and these two are known. Then if you measure the reactions in the bearings and the distance is known, the distance, if you say, is L, F into L, that is the moment, that is given by I omega s omega p, and the rate at which the whole thing is processed is given by Fl divided by I omega s. Say this are the bearings mounted on a device like for example a rocket or an aircraft. You want to know what is the rate at which, the angular velocity at which the aircraft is turning. You want to do that, you cannot, you have to do this inside the aircraft, not outside. You cannot be outside. So you have to do that inside. Being inside the aircraft, you should know how much the rate at which the aircraft is turning. For that you use a device called gyroscope, where it is a spinning disc, and this is attached to the frame of the aircraft, and the spinning disc is rotating at angular velocity omega s. When the plane is turning with the angular velocity omega p, you want to measure omega p, and that is given by this reaction. I have to measure the force exerted in the bearings. Then I should know what is the spinning velocity, the L is fixed, so I can measure what is the angular velocity at which the aircraft is turning. But this principle is widely used, but it has its own inherent problem, the sense that the bearings will decelerate its rotating speed. So you have to continuously give energy to this wheel to rotate it. So you have to go for high precision bearings, and you need to measure the force etc. with a very high sensitivity. So all this compound together creates, gyroscope is a very, very high tech aerospace device. Because if you know that the omega p, that is the velocity, that angular velocity at which the aircraft or spacecraft moves, what is the smallest angular rotation it can measure? Yesterday I think we have calculated the angular velocity of Earth. It was something like 7 point something 10 to the minus 3 radians per second. So that is the slowest motion. Do you have a gyroscopes to measure the spin of the earth? Yes. You can measure at what rate the earth is turning. Not that. The gyroscopes built for Apollo mission in 1969 was having a sensitivity, that is the smallest deduction it can measure, is that it is something like 31 rotation in 30,000 years. The precision, you can say what is very slow to you may be that the rotation of the earth. That is one rotation in one day. One rotation in a year is too slow. But the gyroscopes which are built to measure the angular rotation of the Apollo 11 mission was having a resolution or sensitivity to measure one rotation in 30,000 years. So such a small variations are to be deducted, then only as you launch Apollo mission you will be able to go and reach the moon, because all of them are moving related to each other. Such a precise measurements were necessary. It was achieved by using the gyroscope with this particular accuracy levels. But today we don't use gyroscope because they are very expensive. These expensive gyroscopes, because when I was discussing with a person from ISRO makes gyroscopes. There is a unit to make gyroscopes. They said that to make one gyroscope, they will make 100. Out of 100, one will be the meeting the quality requirements. That means meeting the quality requirement is by a chance, not by your manufacturing. It is the consistency that you will expect, but by a chance you make 100. You have to make 100 and you test, you will get 1. That is the kind of the standard that is required, manufacturing accuracy required here. So slowly what happened is this kind of a measurements, they wanted to do away with the gyroscopes of spinning disc, so they removed it. They removed using the GPS today. GPS for military application will have an accuracy of this. So that means you don't have basically a spinning disc or something like that. You have this straight away. Okay. So having these complications, measuring the angular velocity is always a difficult thing to do. But is there any way out to measure the angular velocity? By having a sensor on the system which itself is turning. Okay, it is not from outside. You are to be inside and measure. So the angular velocity measurements. The gyroscopes are used for angular velocity measurement. Then these gyroscopes as such, they replace the spinning disc, they replace everything. Still, any sensor which measures the angular velocity is called a gyroscope. So you have MEM gyros used in your cell phones, they don't have any spinning disc. But still, it become a generic name. Any sensor which is used for measuring the angular velocity is called gyroscope. So what we are going to see, the principle now is the principle of such a gyro, which is made in a very tiny size using the technology that is micro electromechanical system. It happens to be a electromechanical system which is made at a very small level. If I draw in the board, this is the size of the chip. which is used for measuring the angular velocity. This size is sufficient for putting a gyroscope. But this gyro is not the ordinary one. It can measure the angular velocities in 3 axes, not in 1 axis. It can measure the angular rotations, angular velocities in 3 different axes. Okay. Now, what is the principle of this? The principle what it uses is not a gyroscopic principle, but it uses a Coriolis principle. How Coriolis is related to angular velocity? So, Coriolis acceleration is given by, by magnitude, it is 2 times angular velocity and the linear velocity. Since angular velocity is there, if you are able to measure the acceleration, if you are able to maintain some velocity, you can find out what is omega. So that is what the MEMS gyros today use. So how to measure the acceleration itself? So you can have a mass, then you think of a spring element attached to it. So this is some kind of a frame. So I can think of some device like this. A mass is there and you have a spring. So let me have a spring on either side. So this is attached to a frame. The whole frame itself is subjected to an acceleration. What will happen is this mass which is not attached to this frame will resist this acceleration. It will not tend to accelerate, it will try to be stationary. So it will be subjected to a kind of an acceleration like this. Okay? So this spring will be compressed. So the spring will be compressed with a force that is equal to M into A. Suppose you have the spring stiffness. The spring stiffness is say K, and if you measure this deflection delta x, K into delta x is a force that is equal to M into A. So therefore the acceleration is related to K delta x divided by M. So if we want to measure the acceleration, what I do is I think of a mass and there is a spring. Forget about this spring momentarily. You say think of only one spring. If I have 2 springs, I have to take the stiffness of both the springs together. So I wanted to say that there is a spring. Now the acceleration can be measured because K is constant, M is constant by measuring the deflection. If I measure the deflection of the mass, I can say what is the acceleration it is subjected to. So what I do, let me have 2 springs because that will have, so you have to take the combined stiffness of both the springs. Now for measuring the deflection, what is done is in this mass you have some extension to it. You have something which is attached to here, attached to the frame. And if you think of these 2 extensions are conductive and the gap is filled with a dielectric medium, then you can think of electrically it is a capacitor. You have 2 plates, in between a dielectric medium, it will be a capacitor. So when there is a displacement, relative displacement between the mass and the frame, what will happen is that capacitance is going to change. So if I measure this capacitance, I can relate it to the displacement. Then that displacement is related to your acceleration. So to increase the sensitivity, what will happen is instead of having one finger like this, you will have multiple fingers like a comb you have like this. So number of capacitors in parallel will be in use. That is what is called the MEMS accelerometer. So you have accelerometers to measure the acceleration. If you have this arrangement, it is called accelerometer, MEMS accelerometer. We have devices which are called MEMS accelerometer. There are 3-axis accelerometers are there. Very, that is the way it is used. Now, how it can be used for measuring the angular velocity. Suppose the whole thing, for example, I move this mass with a velocity v, and the entire frame is rotated with the angular velocity omega. This is what I want to measure. Earlier I want to measure the acceleration. Now if I want to measure the omega, there is a rotation, but I move this with the velocity v. How I do that? I can move this by using same type of a capacitor, but the reverse. I apply voltage to this capacitor, it will deflect. That is called electrostatic force can be created. Between the two capacitor plates, there is an electrostatic force. By applying the voltage between the two plates, I can move it. So I can displace the mass by using the electrostatic motors. There is no moving part. There are only two stationary parts. By applying the voltage between them, they produce the electrostatic force between this, it moves. So I can move this, say at a velocity v. Of course, I will not be able to continuously move this, but I will be moving it a cyclic fashion. So at the given instant, this is having a velocity v, and it is subjected to omega. What will be the Coriolis acceleration? It will be subjected to this v will be turned by this, by vector. So your Coriolis acceleration will be in this direction, right? So you will be subjecting this to a Coriolis acceleration. So you have a springs there which will compress. I use again a capacitor plate, the same type of that I use for measuring the acceleration. I use that for measuring the deflection. Now this deflection is due to the Coriolis acceleration. So it will be related to the force. Coriolis force is also will be equal to m times AC. So by measuring the deflection in this direction, it will measure what? It will measure the Coriolis acceleration. That Coriolis acceleration is proportional to omega. If you know what is v, you can find out what is omega. So all this requires, this spring, this mass, the fingers, everything is made of silicon in a monolithic way. There is no external metal piece or no assembly is required. Everything is made on a silicon wafer. It is all, everything which is not required is removed out, etched away, so that you have a monolithic part. So this monolithic part can be made at very small scale, and all this uses compliant mechanisms. There is no hinge, you cannot provide a hinge, but if you want to have a hinging action, you have to use a compliant mechanisms only. So spring, everything is made here, including the capacitor plate, everything is only made of the silicon in a monolithic way. Then you give the electrical inputs and outputs, it will measure. So this is the principle. But there is one fundamental problem with this kind of an arrangement. Suppose it is subjected to only angular acceleration, fine, this is related to this. Suppose, for example, there is an acceleration outside. So if you think of, I mount the MEMS gyroscope here, it is subjected to sense only the rotation, but unfortunately if there is an acceleration, external acceleration is imposed like this, what will happen is this will respond to that acceleration also. So your net this thing will be not only your Coriolis acceleration but also an external acceleration imposed. So to overcome that, what they have done is they have provided one more mass, same arrangements like this, but this will be moving at a velocity in the opposite direction. When this is moved to move in one direction, this will be allowed to move in the opposite direction. So because of this rotation which is imposed, both are integrated, they are not separate. Okay? It is allowed to move in this direction. When the whole thing is subjected to an acceleration, this will also be subject to the same acceleration. Both will be turned. Now you see the Coriolis acceleration in this direction, whereas Coriolis acceleration here in the opposite direction. So now you take the output of these two displacement, subtract the displacement, output of those two displacement. In other words, I measure the capacitance change here and capacitance change here. I subtract those two changes. What will happen is the acceleration, linear acceleration imposed on these two will be cancelled out because they are in the same direction, whereas these two Coriolis acceleration will be added together and you will get an output. So there is a construction called tuning fork construction, wherein one mass is like this, another mass is like this. You know, tuning fork, when it vibrates, they will vibrate the opposite direction, right? You take a tuning fork, how the two arms of the tuning fork will move like this. So they will be at any given instant will have a opposing velocity, so they will respond only to the angular Coriolis acceleration, therefore it will be measured only the angular velocity. So you have a complicated constructions have been designed so that it can measure the Coriolis acceleration, angular velocities in 3 axes. Not only that, I have drawn a chip like this size, about 2 mm by 2 mm or 3 mm, 3 mm. This is the chip. Today, this MEMS technology has advanced to such an extent that this size of the chip manufactured by Bosch is having 3 axes, accelerometer, which can measure the acceleration, linear acceleration, which has also 3 axes, gyro, so that angular velocities in 3 axes can be measured. It also has 3 axes, Hall effect sensor, so which can measure magnetism, so it is magnetometer, so that earth magnetic field can be measured. All of them put together is available in this size of the chip. Okay, so that is called those people working on the robotic club or with Arduino and all this thing, those who are toying with that, they use something called inertial motion unit, IMU, which is normally mounted on anything to be navigated like that. Suppose you have a hovercraft or something, you want to measure the motion, so inertial motion unit. So it will have all the 3 in this size. Not only that, it also has inside this small size chip, it also has a microcontroller which can take all the 3 inputs and then what you call a kind of a algorithm will be run, so that you get the outputs will be better by synthesizing all the 3 or compute using a program to get the output of these things. So a microcontroller is also inside. The microcontroller also can be used to give a trigger, output trigger, when there is a particular way of acceleration. So that means if I have a MEMS sensor attached device, if I do like this, okay, that particular signature can be made as a triggering. So it will look for that, whether that pattern is that way. If that is the pattern, it will give a trigger. That's why some of the phones, to operate your camera, you don't have to go and touch any of this. You shake it like this. I think Motorola has it. You shake it, you will have a camera is on. Okay, so that is how it goes on. But it's all are working on the principle of how an accelerometer works. That is basically a mechanics principle. Similarly, gyro is nothing but, even though it is called a gyro, there is no spinning disc. It is not a gyroscope at all, but it has attained a generic name that it actually uses a Coriolis principle for doing this. Okay, so I like to play this video. For time, you can just watch that video. You can switch on the projector. Peculiarly, I think this classroom doesn't have an audio output, so you have to bear with that audio output, whatever is available here.